Welcome to Technology and Education Today. I'm Richard Smith.
And I'm Caroline Crawford.
And today we are talking about how to design slides for presentations either to live audiences via PowerPoint or for e-learning presentations.
It can be really difficult, and I'm horrible at it because I always put too much information on there, which is a foolish thing to do.
Too much information, that's one of the key things.
Cognitive load issues.
There's always a tendency on the part of people who are designing slides for e-learning to put too much information on them. And I'm certain you've all seen this routine. You go to a presentation that somebody is doing via PowerPoint, and the person looks at the slide at the screen like this, looks at the audience and says, I don't know if you can read this or not. And of course you can't read it because there's 50 lines of type 10 size font on the screen. Nobody can read it.
But at least they're talking to the audience instead of reading off of the slideshow.
Well, we haven't reached that part yet. But the bottom line here is keep the amount of text on your slide presentations
to a minimum.
To a minimum.
They want to hear you talk. The slide is merely an outline.
Right.
Or a representation of graphic information that may be useful towards a presentation. But it's about the presenter.
That's exactly right. And you know, it's a reminder for you and a cue for the audience, but you are the one who is supposed to be speaking, and you provide that information, at least in a live presentation, via the way in which you present, via your voice and your hand motions or whatever else you have, graphics.
There's nothing worse than somebody reading off of the slide. Much like whenever you're at a conference and someone's reading off of paper. I could have read this myself. Why am I wasting my time here when someone is much more engaging in another room?
That's true. That's exactly true. And the other thing to do is, if you're going to put graphics on your slides, make certain to get at least interesting graphics and try to keep away from those stock photos that you get with Microsoft PowerPoint or any other of these products, which really look like stock photos.
And to be helpful, copyright infringement is an issue when you start pulling in graphics from other places, including Microsoft products. Those are copyrighted works, and you have a very delineated
but
usage policy.
We have to be careful to say that any graphics that are included within PowerPoint or within any other presentation software is obviously there for your use. Now, if you pull them off the internet and you use Google Images to pull pull pictures or other images and use them in your presentation, yes, then you're going to have a copyright issue. So you have to be very careful with that. But basically, we want to make certain that you keep away from boring stock images.
That mean absolutely nothing within the presentation. Might mean something at the moment when you're looking at it, but when you're in the presentation, it most likely will not mean anything.
Well, that's the other issue. You know, putting in graphics or pictures for decoration. We can live without the decoration. It clutters the screen. It's distracting for the viewer.
Including templates. So many of us have to use templates from different businesses or universities or wherever, and the templates take up so much acreage that could be much more appropriately implemented.
Yes. Well, if you're required to use a template, you're required to use a template. It's difficult to get around if your university or the company you work for requires you to use that template.
Branding should be a consideration. Yes, of course you need branding. Yes. But really, that's just outrageously silly to have that much acreage taken up. The more professionally developed templates do not implement that sort of foolishness. You know, personal opinion.
And one other thing that you need to keep in mind is to proofread. So many of us these days do not like to proofread. What we'd like to do is complete our project, our e-learning project, and say, I'm finished, I'm going to put it online and present it, or I've done my PowerPoint, I'm just going to show it. And essentially, if you do not proofread it, you are submitting your first draft to your audience. You're bound to have a mistake if you do that. They're going to see those mistakes, they're going to see those errors, and they're going to be thinking, this person
You did this halfway.
you
didn't spend much time on it. Obviously, we're not that important, nor is the information you're offering. Is the natural impression.
Nor, what could you possibly know if you can't even express yourself in correctly written English?
Well, and to be fair, I word process rather quickly. That's the one thing I got out of high school was being able to type, so I changed it over to word processing. Well, word processing quickly. It's very easy to have issues with whatever product you're developing. So yes, absolutely, go back and check. But as well, it's not just the spelling errors and grammatical errors, but it's also the concept of capitalization and making sure that everything is equally presented throughout. I mean, you start out with one slide where every major word is capitalized, and then you go to the next slide where only the first word in a bulleted list is capitalized.
Well,
and then you go to the next slide where nothing is capitalized. Are you kidding me? Come on, please, can we
we need
please
to
follow
have
a flow?
right. You need to have some consistency, and you know what?
Oh, consistency, big word. Well done.
Yes, it's at least 3 syllables.
Like making fun of
maybe even
myself.
4.
Sorry.
And you know what goes along with that, which is very closely associated with that lack of consistency with the size of fonts and whether you capitalize or don't capitalize. It is the type of fonts. There's a tendency to mix various fonts on within the same slide and within a set of slides. So pick a font that you know to be or you found to be effective, that's easy to read, will convey your information, and stick with that font. Please do not have 3, 4 different types of fonts on one single slide at the very least.
Well, and at the same time, from a graphic design standpoint, within a print environment, you know what sans serif and serif fonts are. Sans serif is like Arial, where it's all nice straight lines, Garamond. Serif fonts are like Times or Times New Roman, where you have the pretty little side things on the text.
You have the little curls
The
at
little
the,
curly
at the,
cute
at the
thing,
bottom. That's a serif.
Oh, you say serif,
I'm
I say
sorry.
serif. Tomato, tomato. Okay, so
Serif.
so within a graphic design environment, a print-based product would have a sans serif font like Arial, for example, as the primary heading, banner heading type information and subheadings to focus people's attention. But the text would be, in a print document, a serif font, Times New Roman, something like that. It's exact opposite within a digital environment because it's so much more difficult for the eye to read on a screen. So the major headings are normally going to be serif, Times New Roman, and then the bulleted points or the primary reading components will be sans serif, Arial or Garamond or something.
And you know what all this boils down to, these last 3 or 4 things?
Ease of use.
Well, ease of use, but clutter.
Yes, clutter, absolutely.
Make certain, in all of it we're talking about, if you don't follow what we've been saying, it produces a visual clutter all over your screen.
Which can be good if you want to cause chaos and make people believe that you know something you don't. But if you're doing a presentation, one might suggest that's not your attempt.
Yeah, in general, it's pretty bad. Try to keep your slides free of clutter, without a lot of different fonts, without
Smiley faces all over the place,
images,
transitions flowing in and out.
Images that have no real meaning other than to convey no real meaning other than to simply be a decoration. Keep it simple.
Well, much like novices versus experts, someone who is not comfortable developing a slideshow or a video product or any type of display product, they'll use everything in the kitchen sink. Much like in an e-learning environment, when e-learning first began, everybody wanted everything and the kitchen sink in there. Like, but why? And as one becomes more comfortable in the environment, as one becomes an expert, you take all of that out because it's just fluff and silliness and causes cognitive load concerns and takes away from the message.
Right, and just keep it simple, and we're going to keep it simple right now by ending. For Technology and Education Today, I'm Richard Smith.
And I'm Caroline Crawford. Bye!